Hi, folks. Welcome back. Good to see you again. Had to take a couple weeks off to deal with life, the universe, and everything. The answer of which we all know to be 42. But anyway, this is the video number 6 in the Davinci Resolve User Reference Manual Step-by-Step series, in which we are going to talk about the many times overlooked but very useful media page. Very useful to incorporate into your Davinci Resolve workflow. So let's boot up Davinci Resolve and dive in. Now what you're looking at here is an open, empty project. I just started this project. I don't have any clips selected or imported or anything yet. And I have gone to the media page, which is the focus of this tutorial. Now this video will be covering, if you're following along in the user reference manual, this is covering part 2, which begins in my file on page 270. It's called Ingest and Organize Media. And we're going to master the media page here, because the media page is actually very useful. Most experienced editors maybe tend to kind of ignore it a little bit because they jump in and go straight to the edit page and they do all of their importing media right here from the edit page. But there are definitely some cool functions of the media page, and I think we should cover them. I tend to use it a lot more now that I've gotten the hang of it and what it can do. The first thing we want to do is look at the user interface. Now basically it's divided into 5 main parts. Up here on the top left you have the media browser. This is your viewer in the top middle, and then over here on the right is your audio and metadata, as you see by the buttons up on the top right. Now you can turn those on and off to get more room for your media browser and viewer, and also your media pool down here, which is the other aspect of the UI. So if we were to turn the metadata and audio back on, what this is here on the audio, you can view this by meter or waveform. And the reason you're not seeing anything in any of this right now, everything's black, is because this is a fresh project. There's nothing imported yet. I don't have any clips selected, but we're going to get to all that. Just to do a quick run through on what you're actually looking at here. So we're going to cover these one by one. Let's jump back over to the top left on media storage, basically your media browser. All this is kind of a slimmed down version of, Windows File Explorer, or I believe it's called in Mac the Finder, maybe. And this will show up on your top left 2 different things. It will show all of your attached and embedded drives, which in my case on this system, all I have is one drive. This is my C drive. That's why it's showing here. And it will also show whatever you selected in your preferences if you did the system and user preferences videos earlier in the series, which I highly recommend, especially if you're a beginner. I would start from the beginning and watch those videos in order. But when you go to your system preferences and go to media storage, you'll see that you have to choose a drive location, and usually it starts you off with, users, your username, and the videos, which I just left it at that. What this is all about is covered in another video, and if you want to look at that, just look up the system preferences video in this series. And so since that is selected here, that is also one of the default drives shown in your media browser. Now you can open these and go to any file that you want. Let's see, let's go to my, well, actually I'm going to go to my favorites down here, and we're going to cover this favorites in just a second. This is where I keep all of my videos. So if I wanted to navigate to one of these videos, here's one, and when I hover over it and scrub, it shows up in the viewer. If it does not, go over here in your viewer area to the 3 dots and click on Live Media Preview. If that is not on, which I just turned it off, then when I go over here and scrub through, nothing shows up. But I think most of us would prefer to have that on. Now here's 6 different videos. So if I'm trying to find out which one was that one where I did a certain something, that's the one I want to import. You can just scrub through it really quick. No, that wasn't the one. No. Yeah, that's the one. And then you can find it pretty easily. Now, you still haven't imported any of this into your actual project, into your media pool. This is just you going through the files on your computer by using the media browser. This is everything on your computer, not on your if you decide that you actually want to import it. You can just click on it, grab it, and pull it down to your media pool. And now this video clip is in this project. And then I can add it to a timeline, I can edit it, I can do all that stuff that I want to. Now real quick, let's learn how to save a favorite. So like I said earlier, this is my Davinci Resolve user manual project folder in which I have all the videos for this series. So I tend to access this folder a lot. So I would want this to be a favorite. Just right click on it. Very easy. Add folder to favorites. And now it's one of my favorites down here. So when I start a project and I say, well, I want to go to one of my folders in my Davinci Resolve series, I don't have to start going through all these folder tree hierarchy in order to get to it. I can just click down here, bam, and I'm right there. So definitely use your favorites. Add the ones in that you tend to go to all the time. You don't have to scrub through all these. Now here in your media browser viewing area where you see the files, you can either have thumbnail view or list view. And let's get into something where we can see some thumbnails. So thumbnail view is what I keep it on because I do like to hover over it and have it show up in my media pool, in my viewer over here, so I can look at it. But if you would like, you can show list view. And one thing about list view is you have this metadata bar up here. If you want to see the metadata of your clips, if you need that to help you decide what clips you want to use, you can right click in the bar and choose which pieces of metadata are actually shown. Now I've got way too many of them here, so many in fact that I can't even see all of them because actually I never use list view and I think these were all here by default. So I just don't worry about it. I pretty much keep it in thumbnail view all the time. Now while you're in list view, or I should say while you're in thumbnail view, you can click on the sort button and choose which method you want to sort by. I usually just sort by date modified. That way I can tell what the latest thing that I either recorded or edited was. And that usually helps me out to figure out which ones I'm wanting to grab. You know, I know that the one listed right here is the last one that I shot. And that's usually the one that I'm trying to, put into my video. But you can also sort by any of these other things. Now we also have a SubContext menu on the clips. If you right click, you've got some options here. You can add into media pool, add to media pool as a mat, open the file location, delete permanently. Most of these are pretty self-explanatory, except some things like add clips based on EDLs in the media pool. And we're actually going to skip anything about EDLs in this series because that's a little more advanced. It's nothing that you're going to deal with anytime real soon if you're just making personal videos and YouTube videos. But that's something you might want to look up if it's something you get into later. Now when I right clicked on this clip, it had one set of context menu options, but you'll notice it does not have any music associated with it because it's just a still image. This one over here is a quick little video, and you see this little music symbol here? This means that it has audio with it, and you'll notice if I right click on that, it has the option to extract audio. This is very useful when you've either shot some video and you want the narration from it, but you really don't want the video, or maybe if you have a music video and you're just trying to take the music out of it to cut it up or use it for whatever reason, you don't need the associated video with it taking up space and making it harder for your system to run through your project if you have media associated with a clip that you're not using. If I don't want the video, there's no reason for my system to be trying to analyze that video while I'm creating my timeline. So if all I want is the audio, you can extract audio, and bam, it extracted it to right here. Here is a separate audio file of the audio from this clip. And then you could drag that down into your media pool if you wanted to and use that in your project. By the way, to make the viewer permanently show a clip, remember I showed you can scrub through, but if you want a certain clip to remain on here, just go ahead and click it and it'll stay here. Now over here in the viewer, and I'm going to close this back up a little bit. I only opened it to show you the metadata bar. Up here on the top right is the options button for the viewer. You have the live media preview. You have some other options here. Show zoomed audio waveform if you'd like. And then it will show you the audio waveform. Now I extracted this audio file a few minutes ago. but it still remains in this. I didn't take it out permanently. I just basically copied it as a new file right here. But that doesn't mean it's not still here. Now this viewer timecode right here, this shows you the timecode location where my playhead currently is. So you'll notice when I move this playhead, you see that timecode moves. That tells you where your playhead currently is. Another cool thing you can do right here on the media page when viewing a clip in the viewer is to create a subclip that you can import into your project as its own individual clip. You can use the shortcuts I and O for in point and out point. Move your playhead wherever you want to start it. Click I, move your playhead over to here, click O, and now I have selected this region right here. And if I pull this down to my media pool, I have now imported just that section as a file. And if you click on list view and pull this out a little bit, you'll see that it says subclip, meaning that it is a subclip of this original file, which is this one over here. If I pulled this one down and it does not say subclip, you can see the difference here. This one is 2 seconds and 13 frames. This one is 1 second and 7 frames. Total frames 37 versus 73. So this is now a subclip of this. And you can make as many of those as you want. You can set in points and out points within the same clip and pull subclips down to your media pool. And that kind of helps you out later. You won't have to do so much cutting and editing because you will have already pulled them down as their individual subclips. And then when you're over on the edit page, let's pull this out a little bit, put this to list view so you can see what it says. You'll see that I already have these imported into my project. So I wouldn't have to pull this whole file down into my timeline and then start cutting it up because I've already made subclips and dropped them in here. So I can click this, delete it, and I would just be able to pull my subclips down one after another. Handy little feature there. Now over here in your viewer area, we have the typical fast forward, play, stop, reverse, that plays in reverse. This jumps to the end, this jumps to the beginning. We also have the jog button here. Click and pull one way or the other and you can move it. Kind of the same thing as like scrubbing over here. So now let's talk about the media pool down here, where, as I said, the files will be located that are actually imported into your project. So right now I've got 5 clips imported into my project. Got a couple movie clips and an audio clip, and then the timeline. Now, the timeline clip was created when I did that example earlier when I went over to the edit page and I pulled a clip down. As soon as you import the first thing into your timeline, a timeline file will be created that shows right here on the edit page. So when we go back to the media page, that's why we now see that. So when you see things named timeline 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, that is the current timeline file. Now you can rename these as you can rename any of these files. Just click on it, pause a second, and then you see the cursor appeared right there. Click on the title again, and then I could just call that talking head if I want. Now you can go up to the view menu and come down to, where is it? Show file names to, you've renamed some of your clips to something else, but now for some reason you want to see what the original name is. Davinci Resolve keeps the file names. When you rename the clip right here in your media pool, all you're really doing is renaming it within Davinci Resolve. It doesn't save that to your hard drive. So you can say show file names and it goes right back to whatever it is called on your hard drive when you pulled it into the software. And then if you wanted to go back again, you could go down to show file names and unclick that, and again you will see what you renamed it as a clip. Now we also have bins that we can use. Bins are basically folders within Davinci Resolve. Again, they don't save to your hard drive. This is just a way for you to organize things within your project. So I've started to import some media, and I want to kind of keep this stuff organized as I go along. I want to divide it up between my still shots, my audio files, and my video files. So just right click in your media pool, add bin. I'm going to rename this audio, and I'm going to do that twice more. And then I can start pulling these files, these clips, into those folders. Now again, it does not move these locations anywhere. This is just a way for you to stay organized within your project. So if I wanted to take this one and put it in my video folder, take this one, put it in my video folder, take this one, put it in my audio folder, and then it starts to organize them a little better within these bins. I can do the same for this one. And then you can open these. So if I wanted to just look at all my audio files, it helps to declutter your media pool when you start getting a lot of files. Now, if you're just using, let's say you shot one video, one long video, and you're just going to cut that up and edit that, then there's really no reason to create any bins. You just have one video. So this is only something you'd want to use, when you start getting multiple things that you're incorporating into your video project here. Now over here on the left is my bin list. If you click here under master, it shows, this is like the top level of the file explorer on your Windows or Mac machine. This shows me my folders and whatever I have not put in those folders. Then it shows me my other bins. Click on those here and you can see them just like you would if you clicked on them over here. Very simple, very self-explanatory. Down here we have smart bins. We also have power bins, and right now I believe by default when you start DaVinci Resolve they are not shown. You'll want to go up to View, come down to Show Power Bins, and we'll talk about what both of those are right now. Now what a power bin is it's a way for you to share files across projects without having to constantly go search for it. So let's say you've created some fusion effect. Here's one of my intro title fusion effects that I created and then rendered out as a video. And I want to have that available so I can throw that in to any video that I might make. So what I would do is grab this and pull it into my master power bin. Now, no matter what project I open, when I go over here to power bins and click master, that will be available. And it's pretty much already considered to be in your media pool. So if I go to the edit page, if I go up here to my master list, you don't see it. But if I go down to my master power bins, it's there. I could take that and pull that into my timeline if I wanted to. Now, I'm not going to. But you will see this and it will be available for me no matter what project I'm in, anytime I'm using DaVinci Resolve on this system, because I have now saved this within my master power bin. And just like any other bin, I could create more bins. Once I start gaining a lot of things inside of my power bin, I can start adding sub bins and naming that whatever I wanted to. Smart bins are another thing. Let's go to my master bin because I want to show you what a smart bin is. And I don't have a bunch of stuff loaded in the media pool right now, so we're just going to use these. Now a smart bin, right click over here. Why is this? There we go. Add smart bin. Now what this is going to allow me to do is this sets up kind of basically a folder. I can name it whatever I want and I can set some parameters, and what it will do is it will go and find all of the files that meet those parameters and store basically a link to them in this smart bin. So I don't really use this much because again, I'm a tribe of one. I tend to do videos with very few files, couple of screen captures, couple of videos, maybe an audio and 4 or 5 still shots. I don't really need to search through hundreds of files. But if you do, you can certainly create one of these. Now, here are the parameters that you set. Click this and you can pick which parameter to use. So let's just call this media pool properties. Let's say that the file name, I want it to contain .mov. Create smart bin. Now you'll notice when I click on it, there's nothing there. That's because all of my video files in this current project are actually MP4s. So let's create another one. Add smart bin. Let's say file name contains .mp4. Create smart bin. Now, when I click on smart bin number 1, which was the MOV files, there's nothing there. Click on smart bin number 2, and my 3 video files that contained .mp4 are shown without me having to actually go look for them. So therefore, when I go back to the master, now when I grab these, let's see, let's grab all these, put them into my video. Come on, Steve. What's going on here? I think I just lost it. And maybe I'll let you guys see that at the end of the video. Get used to seeing this kind of stuff. Every editor I've ever used does this on a regular basis. Don't let anybody lie to you. It does it to all of them too. So let's try that again. Looking at my master bin, I can go to smart bin number 2, which was limited to MP4 files, and it shows me all the MP4 files in all of my bins. If I go to the MOV files, there's nothing there because I don't have any MOV files. But what this does is allows me, if I'm looking at my master bin, in order to find my video files, I have to go open that folder. I might even have to open more sub bins that I've created in here. But if I just click on here, it'll show me all of them, regardless of where they are anywhere in my bin structure. So you can create smart bins that limit your properties by certain file names, either containing or does not contain, ends with, matches. You can do it by clip details, audio tracks. There are all kind of parameters here that you can use to have your smart bin go out and find all of the clips in your project that adhere to a certain parameter and show you all of them at once, so you don't have to jump back and forth bin to bin, folder to folder. So those are very useful to use. One other way you can import clips into your timeline is straight from your File Explorer. So let me open my Windows File Explorer. I'll grab this clone tool.mov, and I can grab this, drop this right there. Brings it directly into my media pool. And now, that was an MOV file. If I click on this one, you'll see it shows it, regardless of where I put it. And if we go to List View and right-click on the metadata bar and make sure that comments and description are clicked, which we will find right here. Let me find my comments. Let's just turn off all of the other ones. There we go. So here's my comments. I'll pull this one over here. And that's another thing you can do. Just grab which metadata you want and you can move it. So now, if I want to edit this description or these comments, I want to add some information in here for my own personal use, just put the arrow next to the file and under the title, either description or comments, where you want to click something, where you want to change it, and click twice with a pause in between it. And now I have added a description to that. I can pull that out. There's the description. Same thing with comments. Click it once. If you're already selected, you only have to click it once. If I want to add something to this one, click it and then click it again. Comments. Now I can add comment. Hit enter. And that's how you add descriptions and comments to any of your files. Now while you're in thumbnail view, if you look on the bottom right of the thumbnail, when you put your arrow over it, you will see this little symbol. If you click on that, your clip attributes window opens up. That lets you quickly see the resolution, frame rate, and other useful information. And you can do that for any of them. Now another thing to look at is right down underneath at the bottom of this clip. You see this red line that is showing? That is my usage indicator. That tells me how much of that clip I have actually used in the timeline for this project. So if we go back over to the edit page, you'll remember I pulled a clip in. See this clip right here? That's that sub clip that I made, that I pulled into the timeline. Go back over here and go to list view. That is the second one, is the sub clip. So I have used all of it. And you'll notice, now if I had only, let's say well, let's go down here and do this. Let's go to the edit page. Let's pull the other one, the whole clip in, and let's edit it down to about half. Go back to the media page, and you'll see the red line under that one shows about half. I only used half of it. Now let's go back to the edit page. Let's bring it back. Let's bring it out here a little bit, but let's bring this side in. So we're using a section out of the middle. If we go back to the media page, you'll see it shows the red line, what section of it I have actually used in my timeline. I haven't personally found a real big need for this. Some people online on the forums say that it's crucial to their workflow. It's just something I never actually even glance at. But it is a useful piece of information if you're looking at your media pool that shows you how much of something you've used. Maybe you think you've already put a clip in, and when you look at it like this one here, there's no red line. And I can go, oh wow, I've never put my talking clip in there, my talking head clip. So, maybe you'll find it useful, maybe you won't. And now let's look at the metadata panel over here. If I click a clip, you'll notice the metadata opens up. Now, if you're not seeing this much, click up here on this sort arrow, and you may only be showing one of these, maybe something like shot and scene, or maybe even audio, might look something like that. Just go to all groups, and this will have all of the metadata associated with that clip, many of which are actually editable. So I can go to description and comments, and I can change that just like we did over here while we were in the media pool. You can enter keywords, you can name the shot, name the scene, all of those good things. So just look through that, see what you might want to change, and what matters to you and what doesn't. And then there's another little function here that you probably won't use for quite a while, if ever, but it is very powerful and handy. So if you have entered in a bunch of metadata for this clip, and you go to File, Export Metadata from Selected Media Pool Clips, you can export that entire metadata file that you've just added to a CSV file. And then perhaps in another project that you may be using that same clip and you'd really like to transfer all that metadata over, but you don't want to enter it all again, and you don't want to have to transfer the file over and re-import it, just export as a file. And then when you're on your other system with that clip without all that metadata, you can just click on it, go to File, go to Import Metadata to Selected Clips, and then choose the file you just exported. And it will suddenly populate all of this metadata with the metadata you previously saved for it. And you don't have to, it doesn't have to be the same clip. Maybe you entered all of the shot and scene, take and angle location, and you want to just export that and then import it into a different clip that has all of that same information. So you don't have to just keep this between the same duplicate clips. So that's very, very useful if you... Oh, shut up. Just fucking leave that out. Now, another thing you can do while you're in the media pool, and actually when you're pretty much anywhere in DaVinci Resolve, go to Workspace and go to Dual Screen On. Now, that looked like it just crashed on me, but What it did is it split my display up into two monitors. I'm only recording this one, so you only see one. It took my media browser and my media pool and put it on my second monitor. So now I have a much bigger screen here to look at for my viewer. I've got scopes and things to look at down here that you don't typically see when you're looking at it on one monitor. So if you do have two monitors, I highly recommend choosing this and taking a look at it. It's a much easier way to work. But for the sake of this tutorial, let me take that off. And here we go. Now you can also go to Workspace and where is choose primary display. There we go. And then I can choose which one of my monitors is primary. That way, when I go to dual screen, if I didn't want my, let's say, my media pool over on my left, how it came up when I chose it before, and I wanted that on my right, and I wanted the main viewer on my left, just change which one is selected as your primary display. And then when you choose dual screen, it will reverse them. Now, if we go over to the manual, let me show you where we are here. In part 2, we've pretty much covered all of this. Now, scene detection is rarely used, but it's pretty cool and helpful. I'm going to do a video on just scene detection, so I'm not going to cover that here. And then these next two sections of part 2 that we're covering involve external peripherals. And as I've mentioned in previous videos in this series, this is for beginners, and I'm not dealing with anything that you're going to have to go out and buy more equipment for. If you can't use it with the free version, then I'm not covering it right now. If it's something that you want to investigate, I would definitely recommend reading into this, but it's not something that most beginners are going to use for a very long time, if ever. So we're just going to skip those. There's also a face detection option that's listed in the chapter 12 that we were going through earlier if you're following through in the user reference manual. And by the way, I don't think I mentioned, but in the description there's a link to the user reference manual. Go ahead and download that so you can follow through these videos. I've mentioned that in every other video. I think I've gotten lazy and just forgot that this might be the first time you're watching any of my videos. You might not have gotten all that information. I put a bunch of very useful links in the descriptions of all the videos in this series. But the face detection, that is only available in the studio version. So that's why if you're following along, you might have noticed I just skipped it. Now let's talk real quick about syncing audio and video. Let's put this back out of the way. This is how you do that. Let's say I have a video file. Let me take this and put this back into my master. And let's get another crash. We'll be right back after this crash. And here we are, recovered from crash number 2 in this video. So back to where I left off, syncing audio and video. Let me grab this video, put this back in my master bin. Let me grab this audio, put this in my master bin. Now the way that you sync audio and video, let's say you've recorded something on your camera using the camera microphone, which we all know suck, and you're also recording yourself with a much better quality microphone setup, and that's the audio that you want to use in your video. You want to replace the audio that's in your camera video with the audio file that you recorded separately, but you need it to be synced up so that, you know, when the person's lips move and things like that, the music is synced, or I should say the audio is synced. Create a bin, right click and add bin. It doesn't matter what you name it. And then grab the audio file you want to use and the video file you want to use. Now open this, select both of them, right click and say auto sync audio. Now, if you have a really well set up system of recording where your time codes are already all in sync, you can choose based on time code here. I think most of us just want it to sync based on the waveform, which means it will analyze the audio on the video file and the audio on the audio file, and being that you recorded them at the same time, it's going to have the same audio just at slightly different times. It's going to sync them together and then replace the audio file in your video file with the external audio file, the good audio file. Now that's if you just choose based on waveform. If you would like to keep both audio files in your video file, meaning you want to keep the lesser quality one that was originally there and you don't want it to be replaced, you just want to add the new audio file in sync, you can choose append tracks. Now, I personally never do that. I always just choose based on waveform. Oh, I grabbed the wrong video. Here's a perfect example of how Davinci will let you know that, you've done something wrong. This audio file was not the one that I recorded at the same time that I recorded this talking head video. So therefore, when it tried to sync them up, it was like, yeah, the same stuff is not being said on these. I have no way to sync that. Now I've jumped ahead and went and found the correct two files. Here I have a video file that I recorded, and as you can see, I recorded it sideways, but I took care of that and fixed it. And this is the external audio file that I recorded at the same time. So I want to replace the smartphone video in this one with this one. So grab them both. Based on waveform, it'll analyze it, and it just replaced this video now with the audio file from this one. Now, I'm not going to play any of these and bore you with my ignorance, but that is how you sync audio and video. It says in the manual that you should create a new bin, like I showed you a minute ago. Put the audio file and the video file that you want to sync into the bin and then do it from there. But I have just found that it works no matter where it is. If you've got them both in the master bin and they're not in their own bin, just make sure that the only files selected are the ones that you want to sync. So if those two are selected, no matter where you have them, just as long as they're together, you can't select one and then go to another bin and select the other. They simply have to be together in the same bin, whether it's your master or any other bin. Select them both, right click, and then auto sync by time code. By waveform, or by waveform and append tracks if you want to keep both files in the video. And I think that's going to pretty much wrap up the media page. Do a little practice on scrolling through your media browser to find the files on your system. Create some favorites. Maybe find some files that you want to use often. Create yourself a power bin. If you can't see it, go to View, Show Power Bins. Drag a few things into your power bin so that they're available to you throughout the rest of your projects anytime. Practice creating a smart bin or two to find all of the files in your media pool of a certain type or a name or that contains certain parameters, and get used to doing that. And once you have that set up properly the way you want it, you'll find yourself, even when you're on the edit page or the fusion page, you'll find yourself jumping back to the media page real quick because of the easy way that you've set up the file structure to be able to just go back and forth between files on your computer and then files that are actually in your project. Because as I said earlier, if you're in your edit page, I can't see any files that are actually on my computer. All I can see are the ones that I have imported into my project. So if I need another one, I either have to open up File Explorer and go find it, or I have to right click and say import media, and just like I'm in File Explorer, I have to go find it. So you'll find the media page is very useful once you get used to the things that it can do for you, especially like the live view. Oops. I wanted to show you that one. If you'd like to see more of Creepy Steve, go out and check out the first couple videos in the series. I think I kind of kicked him to the curb for a while, maybe until we get a few videos under our belt. Actually, I'm just waiting to get better recording equipment. Well, that about wraps up mastering the media page. Hope you found some useful information that you can put to use in your daily DaVinci Resolve workflow. If you'd like to support my channel, please do. Please subscribe so you can be notified immediately when my next videos come out. And until the next video, live to learn and learn to live.